Hello everyone, welcome back to Allcarnews, and I have been driving this 2024 Buick Envista over the past week. This is a hot new model from Buick, literally just came out, and of course it famously now shares this platform with the all-new Chevy Trax, which has also been a smash hit. I drove that Trax way back over in October, and now I get the Envista for a week, and this thing has honestly impressed me in a lot of different ways. Maxed out right here, it's around $30-ish, $31,000, and you get a lot of features with practicality. You get a comfortable ride, comfortable interior, a lot of technology, and it looks like it costs like $10,000 to $20,000 more than it actually is. So I'm going to show you a full tour of this Envista, how it's been treating me over the past week, and let's just take a look at this thing because it's really quirky and pretty cool. Okay guys, so what do we have going on under the engine here of the Buick Envista? Well, it's a very familiar powertrain. If you guys watched my Trax video as I struggle to open this hood, it is the now well-known 1.2 liter turbocharged 3-cylinder engine. We can see it here mounted transversely as this thing is only front-wheel drive. Thankfully, Buick did not give us a CVT, but we have a 6-speed automatic transmission, which is okay. You know, this is an economy car, it's meant for fuel economy, and it's only making around 132-ish horsepower, so it's not particularly potent in any kind of case and scenario. It's built for fuel economy, kind of day-to-day driving around, and it gets pretty good fuel economy when I say that. Up to around 30-ish miles a gallon, 35 plus if you're kind of babying it. I've been averaging around 25 to 28 around the city sometimes, which isn't too bad, but honestly it does pretty good on a highway, which is nice for this small engine, which sometimes I see these smaller engines don't do as well as other engines on a highway drive setting. Now, what I would love to see, I don't think they're going to end up doing this, but GM doesn't really seem to be in the field of hybrids. If this thing was a hybrid, if this and the Trax were some kind of hybrid, I think they would absolutely dominate the market. These are already fantastic looking vehicles. They're pretty comfortable. They offer a lot of features and stuff for a lowish price point. This thing starts around $23,000. I think that would really, really make a huge impact if they did do that. But nonetheless, it's a fine powertrain. And if you need something a little bit more powerful, you can upgrade to something like the Buick Encore GX. Or if you're looking for a Chevy alternative, you can go for the Chevy Trailblazer, which is going to get you more power and optional all-wheel drive. But let's go dive into the rest of this car because it's definitely unique. Okay guys, here we are with the all-new Buick Envista, and boy, is this an interesting looking vehicle. Like I mentioned in our introduction, this thing looks like it costs a lot more than it does. Fully loaded here, it's around $31,000, and they start around the $23,000 range. And if you want something that looks like a Lamborghini Urus or something more exotic, like those crossover coupes, this is definitely something to get if you are in a lower end price point in terms of this market right now. So what are you getting with this Envista? So like we know, the Envista and the Chevrolet Trax are the both entry-level vehicles right now of GM's kind of mass market brands, and this one's a little bit different than the Trax. It has a sloped roofline. It kind of adopts that sportback crossover coupe looking style, and as a result it does lose a little bit of rear cargo space, but otherwise the interior is pretty much identical to a Trax with a lot of leg room, and like I said, outside these incredible looks. So you have a pretty long wheelbase here for this front wheel drive platform, as you can kind of see, and that's all for that leg room, but the styling outside is definitely something we want to take note of. Starting up front here, we have the Envista Avenir, the top-end luxurious version of the Buick Envista, and it's also debuting Buick's new front fascia design and general exterior design language that we're going to see on all new Buicks going forward. So this is a big vehicle for the brand in a lot of different ways. Up front here, we can see a really unique styling right here with these split headlights and and we can also see a lot of the chrome work that we're going to have on this Avenir trim. Up close on these headlights, we can see our main beams that are located on the lower end, but up top here we have these daytime running lights with this really cool kind of checkered pattern within them. Gives it a little bit more of a luxurious pattern and look to them. Really like that. And we're also seeing the all-new Buick badge that has been debuting here on this new Envista. It's kind of a simpler, cleaner take on the Buick badge right here. We can still see the colors of red, white, and blue in the center, but it's kind of like this tiger claw style look, and that kind of emphasizes the whole design of this thing. It's very aggressive, especially with this split headlight design and this lower grille. Now, this one is getting a unique lower grille for the Avenir. It's a little bit of bright finish work. Unfortunately, this one is cracked a little bit. Another journalist appears to have done this. That is what I was informed by the team who delivered the car. So a little bit annoying, but it is perfectly fine because this thing is still pretty cool looking. We could also see this kind of split lower bumper area here for some air to go into the cooler and the radiator back there, which is really nice. It's a really funky looking front end. Also nice sculpted hood here. I think it's a really distinctive looking front end for the Buick Envista. Now this Avenir trim's also getting us these 19-inch wheels we have here. I think they're really nice looking. They do look a little bit bigger than 19-inch wheels. I think it's just because of this multi-spoke design here. Again, a nice premium touch for a entry-level vehicle. 19-inch wheels, check that out. And we also have body colored side molding, so there's no kind of gross hard black plastic lining the fenders and the side sill. I'm very happy that Buick has chosen to do that. And we can also see the Avenir logo on the side of this Envista to kind of mark that this is the top spec Avenir trim. Very nice script there, and we're seeing that on all Buick models now. You have an option of that Avenir trim. Now coming to the side profile, you can also kind of see this really nice bright work chrome trim around the window surrounds, and this is going all the way back into kind of like that sportback style rear end and this unique shape. I'm kind of glad they didn't do that floating roof design here, but instead they kind of chose for this long rear axle that blends into the rear roof line as well into the kind of sportback tailgate and those sleek rear taillights. And there's also a little bit of that pattern here, that neural pattern we found in the front daytime running lights as well. So I like that continuation of the design language there. Really huge gas cap on our driver's side as well. We can kind of see this cool side profile again of the Buick Envista. Really unique looking thing. And I've already gotten some looks on this thing on the road, especially in this Cinnabar red metallic paint color. Now looking at the rear end of the Envista, it's also a really nice looking rear end. Now unlike the Trax, it's a little bit more luxurious and cleaner focus. It actually is overall a little bit longer than the Trax, but that's all in the front and rear ends. Nothing about the wheelbase is different between the two vehicles. And you can kind of see that extra length back here to kind of incorporate the sportback design, and also these really sleek LED taillights. Now, these are actually, I would call almost daytime running taillights, because your actual taillight is in this lower portion down here, which I'm personally not a big fan of. So if your daytime running light taillights, I guess, are not on, this is going to be your real taillight. It looks a little bit funky, unfortunately. I'm not sure why they did that, but the rest of the design back here is really clean. You can see that new Buick badge again with the Buick logo spelled out underneath. We have our Avenir logo back here, as well as the Envista badge. I think it might be a little bit too much badging going on back here. I think it would look a little bit cleaner with maybe just the Buick logo. But again, really nice, clean looking rear end. We also have a little bit of an integrated little lip spoiler, or kind of a little, I guess you can call it a little ducktail spoiler, integrated into this sportback design here to give it some depth as well. And as this is the Avenir trim, we have that bright chrome work on the bottom as well, which is a nice touch. And believe it or not, yes, we do have a power rear tailgate on this entry-level vehicle. Now, like I said, we do have a power tailgate on this Envista, and we have our key fob here. We also have remote start, which is a nice touch, and we can just press it twice to open the tailgate. Now, like I said, this is losing just a little bit of space out of the Trax. And I just mean just a little bit, and that's just because of the sloped roof line. It's mostly in that height segment. The rest of your space down here is pretty much identical to a Trax. And it's a pretty big trunk, actually, for an entry-level vehicle. You can see we have even more additional side storage on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side. And underneath this floor is a spare tire. Yes, you do get a spare tire back here, which is a fantastic touch. No fiddling around with some fix-a-flat kit. And of course, you can fold the seats down as well for even more additional space. And that's a pretty easy process from these little levers right there. Fold those down. And you genuinely do have quite a large area to work with back here, kind of shoving stuff into. You can see our backup camera integrated back up here. And we have a power button to close this tailgate up. Okay guys, let's take a tour of the interior of the Buick Envista now. We have our key fob right here. Pretty nice new key fob from Buick, not too bad. And we do have remote start if you need to, as well as unlock as well. Power trunk button. I'm just gonna unlock it now. It does have keyless access actually, which is a nice touch. And let's go check out these rear seats. Opening the door, we have a pretty wide rear door opening, which I do quite like. And it's a very wide opening as well, which is easy to get in and out of, and it's not too high off the ground as well. So if you have some older passengers or even some kids that don't want to have to hop in really high in a big SUV, this is a good solution right here. The door panels themselves are pretty plain. We do have rear privacy glass, which is nice. Just blends of plastic, a little bit of softer touch material here, and nothing too crazy here. And we do have a window switch and some storage here for like a cup holder, but it's not the biggest amount of space. Let's hop inside. Getting inside, like I said, pretty easy. Not too bad. And this is where the best part of the Envista is for passengers, because there is just so much space back here. I'm going to close the door real quick for you guys. Might get a little dark in here. Now, this one does not have the sunroof option, which you may be able to see, which is a little bit unfortunate. It is like an $800 option, I believe. I don't know why this Tester didn't have it, but you can get a sunroof, so don't worry about that. This is my driving position. I'm 6 feet tall, and I can very comfortably sit behind myself. And that's something I can't say about something, even in Buick and GM's own family, like a Buick Encore GX or a Trailblazer. The rear seats are actually going to be a little bit shorter than this Envista or a equivalent Trax, which is kind of crazy. There's just so much foot room in here, leg room. It's really impressive. You have some storage in the backs of your seats here, which is really nice. You have the USB-C and A outlet. You also have this nice big storage cubby in here and a completely flat floor. This is a front wheel drive vehicle, so you can truly fit not only 3 people back here, but you can kind of slide across the whole rear bench pretty easily. The seats themselves are this kind of like tan beige style material, which is nice. You have some stitching on here, which gives it some kind of depth. This center armrest does fold down to reveal 2 cup holders, which is a nice touch. And like I said before, you can fold the seats down pretty easily, just like that, to access even more space. And you have a flat floor into the trunk, which is a really nice touch as well. Really like that. There's not too many amenities or features in here. Obviously, it's an entry-level vehicle, but for this incredible amount of space, good visibility with all this giant windows and glass back here, and I'm sitting back right now. I have about like almost 1.5 inches to 2 inches of headroom. Even with the sloped roof line, it's really impressive. And like I mentioned before, you do have keyless access, so you can press this little button to lock your Envista, unlock it, and if you want to do a double tap, you can unlock all 4 doors. But let's open up the doors and hop inside. Again, pretty plain stuff going on the door panels, nothing too crazy. We do have more window switches here. No automatic windows, so that's one little cost-cutting feature. It's automatic down, just not up. We also have a little bit of an adjuster for our tailgate for different heights and lengths, which is nice. And let's hop inside. Again, we can see that same nice material on the seats. Pretty solid thunk from those doors right there. And check out this interior. It's actually really kind of a nice space. Let's start it up. Push the start as well. And the Envista comes to life. And honestly, this is a pretty nice interior compared to the Trax. Even though a lot of the stuff is pretty much identical, I do appreciate the difference in the design language of this interior. There's a lot of cool, funky shapes going on, such as like this kind of like cat eye glasses style display surround for your digital cluster and your infotainment display. We also have this nice kind of blend of this chrome material going into the dash. Some not real stitching, I don't think it is, but it looks nice. And the different kind of textures on the materials kind of add a little bit more of like some levels to this interior, especially for something that's an entry-level product. It doesn't feel like an Econo box or something super cheap. And I do appreciate Buick for doing that. Let's start off with our kind of driver's center zone right here. So we have this really nice steering wheel wrapped with some stitching around it, and it is heated as well, which is a fantastic feature for just around maxed out $30,000. We have automatic LED headlights as well as automatic wipers as well, which is a lovely touch. We have a little bit of a dimmer here for our interior lights and illumination. Pretty quick response on that as well. I do like that. Automatic headlights as well. A nice little control dial for those. And of course, we have our window and mirror controls here. No automatic or power folding mirrors whatsoever, and like I said, only have auto down, not auto up. Some little cost-cutting features we can see there. Otherwise, though, I really do like this steering wheel. It's very nicely shaped. It has a flat bottom, which is, I guess, good for kind of your kind of leg room and knee room. And I do like how this piece is open. Even on some more expensive vehicles, this little center third spoke isn't open, and it kind of looks cheap. So I'm kind of glad they did that there. And again, we see that new Buick logo. Our cluster is okay. I'm honestly not the biggest fan of it. I did have it in the Trax as well as the Colorado over the summer. It's fine. You can customize it just a little bit by holding down this button, and you can kind of see these different displays on here, like gauge 2, for example. Different style. You have your tachometer on that one. You have some vehicle information. You can pop up here and change that from the infotainment system, actually. You have an infotainment view here, so your audio, and you also have like a clean screen here, which is like very bland. Not even a tachometer on there. So nothing too crazy there, but it's a fine screen, I guess. You do actually have adaptive cruise control on this one, which is another wonderful feature that is part of a package, and it has a lot of safety systems, even just standard, so I really do like that they did that. This whole center console area is very clean. We have 2 big cup holders here. There's no grips inside, which I would like, but you know, it's an entry-level vehicle, so there's a little bit of cost cutting there. We do have this interesting orbed shaped shifter here. Pretty simple in its operation. We have some plus and minus buttons here to change the 6 speeds if you need to. Otherwise, you know, just simple operation there. This one does come with a wireless charger mat, which sometimes works. It doesn't always work with my phone for some reason, as well as a USB-C and A port and a 12-volt socket, all in this nice little convenient area here. Easy quick access button for your auto stop start, as well as lane keep assist, which is really nice. And we have physical climate controls. And I say some physical climate controls because they're not all here. It's a clean look, though there are actually some more climate controls in the infotainment system if you want to change your directional speeds. Thankfully, we do have automatic climate, which is nice, and heated seats, 3-stage heated seats for both front driver and passenger, which is really nice. And popping this button here will open up our additional climate settings. Thankfully, it's really not too much stuff baked into the screen. It's just our directional change for our airflow, which really isn't too bad. Everything else is physical controls here. And this is actually a little screen, which is really nice to kind of see your temperature. So nice touches here from Buick. Really appreciate that. Now let's get over to this infotainment system real quick. It's a fine infotainment system. There really is nothing in here. This is pretty much all you're getting here. You have your Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, which are wireless, by the way. You have climate settings, some additional settings, and a Wi-Fi hotspot. This is just to connect your phone here. This is a dedicated traction control screen, which is kind of funny. And you also have a vehicle kind of maintenance and check page. And all these tiles here you can actually put onto your gauge cluster up front, which is really cool, actually. Engine air filter life. There's some things I haven't even seen on other vehicles. It feels like they kind of just threw things on here to kind of put them on here, but it's cool nonetheless. You do have some trip information here, fuel economy. Someone did 39.9 miles to the gallon. They're probably driving a little bit slow, but I've been averaging around 25 and mostly city driving, actually. I'm going to try to take this on a road trip as well for you guys. Some more information there. Go home and you can see in our settings page, we do have a lot more stuff going on in here, just in terms of just general settings, climate, air quality, some convenience features, lighting features as well. Apps really isn't anything crazy. Of course, it does have OnStar as a GM product. And of course, we have our regular radio stations as well. I believe we have AM, FM, Sirius XM, and of course, we can add devices. So good customizability here, and there's no navigation system whatsoever available. You have to use either Android Auto or Apple CarPlay to use a navigation system in the vehicle. I'm completely fine with that, but I guess someone who may not be as tech savvy, maybe a little bit older, they might need to get used to that, but they probably will have a phone that is capable of doing that this day and age. Some other just general things in here. I do like the chrome accenting around the air vents. It does add a nice little touch up here to the vehicle. We have an electronic parking brake, a little bit of a storage cubby here, as well as a slightly padded center armrest. It's not super soft, actually. It's a little high, and it's also not adjustable. We do have a little bit of a center console here. Pretty deep, actually. I like how deep that center console is. There's no kind of charging ports or anything in there, though. So all your charging information and stuff is going to be up there. Decent sized glove box that is not illuminated, and we have an Avenir embossed owner's manual right there, which is nice. These seats up here get a little bit more of a premium touch in the rear. We have a stitched Avenir badge up top, and we also have this really nice white piping actually on here. So they've kind of tried to spice up this interior just a little bit. One thing that I think just cheapens everything out is these dull looking lights. They could have just popped in LEDs. I don't think it would have been that much more expensive, but I'm gonna be nitpicking there. Honestly, it's a pretty fine interior, very roomy, lots of visibility, and it's a really not a bad space for the price range between $23,000 to like $31,000. It's pretty good. So good job, GM, on this interior. Let's go take this thing on a drive. Now, a lot of people are comparing this with its sister vehicle, the Trax, and when they drive the two, yes, they look different, but there actually are changes underneath. Yes, they share the same wheelbase, engine, gearbox, and the platform, and a lot of the same parts. But what Buick has done is they have retuned the suspension. Let's just test out this little bit of a torquey engine here, 160-ish pound-feet of torque, around 132 horsepower. Spinning the front tires here, it's a little slick out. That was just a gentle acceleration there, nothing too aggressive. We'll take you guys on the highway in just a second. Now, the unique thing that Buick has done here is they've retuned the suspension bushings to make them softer than the Trax. This is obviously going to improve ride, but one thing you can get on the Buick Envista that you cannot absolutely get at all on the Trax is this Watts Link rear suspension. Now, this is optional on, I think, the ST version of the Envista, not the entry-level preferred, but this Avenir gets its standard. And all it is essentially is that the Trax and Envista use a torsion beam rear suspension, so essentially it's just one big beam connected to the two springs, and that's how it's typically found on economy vehicles. It's a cheaper style suspension setup. But what the problem is with those suspensions sometimes is that those side-to-side movements can be a little bit uncomfortable in some occasions and could be a little bit stiff. This Watts Link setup, essentially what it's doing is it's adding an additional link kind of in the center bit of that beam to kind of dampen out those side movements. And so the Envista does drive a little bit more softer, a little bit more luxury focused, and that's kind of mindset versus the Trax. Now, is it noticeable? Honestly, yes. That was one of the first things I did notice getting in the Envista and driving it. I took the Trax on a pretty long 200+ mile road trip, and driving this, instantly I noticed that there was a difference in the suspension. So let's pop onto the highway here. Now, it's not the quickest thing on the planet. It's a small engine. It's meant to be putt-putting around with decent fuel economy, but you do have some good acceleration onto the highway. It doesn't feel dangerous, so I'll put it that way. So we're around 40 miles an hour now, getting up to highway speed. Is not super difficult. Doesn't take too long. You know, if you're gonna do a pure all-out 0 to 60 test on this thing, it's gonna be in the 9-second range, but that's not why you're buying an Envista. You're looking for an affordable vehicle that has a lot of stuff that you're getting for that price. And also, you don't have or need all-wheel drive. This is a front-wheel drive only vehicle. So, how is the Envista on the highway? This is actually one of the other bits that did impress me really, really well over the Trax. I'm pretty sure Buick stuffed in some more noise-canceling material throughout the body panels of the Envista to kind of further enhance that sound isolation experience on the interior. And that is definitely something I noticed on the highway, because when I did take the Trax on the highway, it was quiet. It did impress me how quiet it was for the price point, and that's just the type of class of vehicle, but this is even quieter. It also features this kind of active sound cancellation through the speakers, so it kind of plays like this low frequency sound to kind of help cancel out even more noises. So that is going on here as well. And I think it works. It is pretty quiet on the highway. I do quite appreciate that a lot, especially for an entry-level vehicle. You have to remember, this vehicle starts at $23,000. This one is the Avenir. It's essentially fully loaded. All we're missing is the moonroof package and I believe a parking sensor package. I think that's it. It has pretty much everything else, and it's around $30,000. If anything, you'll be paying up to $31,000 to $32,000 of these, but that's if you have all the bells and whistles. Otherwise, you can get these pretty decently priced in the $20,000 range, which is something you just can't find on modern vehicles these days. Now, one of the good packages that this thing does have for around $800, I think I actually see a truck of Traxes and Envistas right there, which is pretty funny, is that this has radar cruise control. So it has that little GM funky thing where we can kind of change that gap adjust thing. Now, in a vehicle that doesn't have radar cruise, it will actually kind of work to just like alert you from how far you are from a vehicle if you're getting too close. But since this does have the radar cruise control, that system also plays in with adjusting your gap between a vehicle in front of you. And this is pretty funny. We're gonna go test out this radar cruise behind a truck carrying Envistas and Traxes. This is hilarious. Turning on radar cruise is pretty simple. You just pop on your cruise control on the left-hand side of your steering wheel, set your speed, and that's about it. You don't have kind of lane or full steering assist. You do have lane keep assist, so it will bump you in and out of the lanes and give you an audible warning, which I do quite like. You can set your speed, and of course we can change that gap adjustment really easily here with this button. So what else is really going on in this interior? So one of the main interesting points here is that the interior is kind of designed for the Envista, not necessarily the Trax here. So we have a unique shaped dash. We have this kind of unique surround around the two screens, which are the same as the Trax, but everything in here feels a little bit more unique. We have a unique style steering wheel for the Envista, wrapped with this leatherette material. The driver's seat even has lumbar support, which is a nice touch as well. And just driving this Envista around 99% of the time, it's just very comfortable, actually. Braking performance is pretty good. I don't really have any complaints there. Steering is very light but direct. It doesn't feel cheap or artificial or anything. It just feels like a regular vehicle, and that's something that you sometimes don't find in these cheaper econobox style class of vehicles. I wouldn't even go anywhere near to call this thing an econobox or something you would find back in the day. And this is definitely an elevated experience over some of the competition, including the Trax, such as like a Nissan Kicks or especially a Mitsubishi Outlander Sport, for example. This is definitely going to be a nicer experience in here. Yes, you can't get the all-wheel drive option, but generally 99% of the time you will be fine if you don't live in one of the snowbelt states or in a very snowy area. Now, as you can see here, we have this digital cluster, and it is mildly configurable, so all you have to do is really hold down this button on the right hand side and you'll get a few different options of gauges you can go through. So there's gauge 2, for example, and you also have an information display as well. I'm not a particularly big fan of the displays up here. You can change this actually in the infotainment system for what you see in this information area. It's a little bit odd of the design layouts. You have a music one there, and you have a clean one, which is like way too bland. They're a little bit confusing to see. I mean, obviously you have your speed all the time, but just the layouts are a little bit interesting, I would say. And I think for my personal driving position right now, I can't see the whole display actually. I guess I could adjust the steering wheel, but then I won't be comfortable. But that's one thing to note. So there's some information on this top right hand side that I can't see, but thankfully it isn't anything super crucial. And even on these back roads here, I definitely noticed the difference in that suspension feel compared to the Trax. Even over bumps, things are pretty well damped. And this is all really great points you're going to be wanting in an entry-level vehicle. Sometimes people go into these vehicles thinking like, oh, it's going to be terrible, it's not going to be a premium experience. This may change your mindset a little bit. It drives really well for what it is. And if you kind of don't look at how much it costs and all that stuff, you might be a little bit surprised what you're getting here. A lot of wheel spin. And there is 60 for you guys. It takes some time, but it can definitely get up to it. Shockingly, the 0 to 50 mile per hour time is significantly quicker than our 0 to 60 time by about like almost 3 seconds, which is impressive. Anyways, guys, thank you for joining me on yet another video over at Allcarnews, and with this all-new Buick Envista. As always, stay tuned for more coming soon. Cheers.